Hello there and welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Tracy, Shilshi, and today we're bringing our focus back on the drought situation across the country. India, as you know, is officially in the grip of its worst water crisis in years, with the government saying that about 330 million people, or a quarter of our population, are suffering from drought after the last two monsoons failed. In fact, just last week, the Central Water Commission and the Central Groundwater Board were asked to study the water situation till about June in drought-affected areas and then prepare a long-term plan of possible actions to tackle the calamity. Of course, sadly, until then, while we wait for that action plan, affected families will be continuing to lose their loved ones, either to suicides or to the massive exodus that we have been witnessing from areas, especially Marathwada and Bundelkhand in UP. So helping us understand the situation, really panning it out across the country, especially Maharashtra and UP, we have in studio the Professor of Economics at JNU. We've got Professor Ravi Srivastava joining us. We also have Bloomberg Correspondent Archana Choudhry with us and Senior Assistant Editor with Rajya Sabha TV, Arvind Kumar Singh joining us. And also from the capital, Yogendra Yadav is joining us, Convener of the Swaraj Abhiyan. If I could come to you, Sir Arvind Ji Pele, you did an extensive tour of the Marathwada region recently. We carried so many of those special reports. Just give us an idea, as people sitting here in the comforts of the studio, and even those who are watching us at this point of time, how grim is the situation there?
देखिए टेसी जी, मैं हिंदी में अपनी बात करूँगा।
हाँ जी, बिल्कुल।
जो खास तौर पर जो मराठवाड़ा का जो इलाका है, औरंगाबाद डिवीज़न के जो 8 ज़िले हैं, वो बहुत ही वर्स्ट अफेक्टेड है, क्योंकि मैंने सारे ज़िलों में वहाँ मैंने देखा है। और जो पूरा मीडिया अटेंशन जो रहा बेसिकली लातूर पर रहा, क्योंकि वो ग्रोइंग सिटी है। वहाँ जो ख़ास तौर पर जो इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा होती हैं। हालांकि एग्रीकल्चर का भी जो हमारी अरहर की दाल है, जो तूर दाल बोलते हैं, उसकी सबसे बड़ी मंडी है देश की वो। तो वहाँ अटेंशन रहा है, लेकिन खुद लातूर का जो रूरल एरिया है या बीड जो है, पूरा का पूरा बीड ज़िला जो है वो बहुत ही बुरे संकट से गुजर रहा है। और जो भी सोर्सेज हैं वाटर के, जितने भी हैं, चाहे वो पॉन्ड्स हों, चाहे वो कुएँ हों, बावड़ी वहाँ बोलते हैं इसको, कुओं को, ये सब के सब गायब है। पानी पता नहीं कहाँ चला गया है। और दूसरी बात एक समझने की है कि जो महाराष्ट्र का जो ये इलाका है, ये 5 बार से लगातार जो है वो सूखे की मार झेल रहा है। 2013 एक ऐसा साल था जिसमें ठीक ठाक बारिश हुई थी, उसके बाद बारिश हुई ही नहीं। तो 5 लगातार जो है साल ये संकट भरे रहे। एक जो बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है जिस पर लोग इंगित कर रहे हैं कि तो शुगर केन ग्रोइंग एरिया बढ़ रहा है, वो एरिया बढ़ रहा है शुगर केन का। दूसरा बियर के और शराब के जितने कारखाने हैं, बड़े सबसे ज़्यादा कारखाने भी उस इलाके में हैं। इंडस्ट्री जो है काफ़ी वाटर कंज्यूम कर रही है, एग्रीकल्चर भी काफ़ी वाटर कंज्यूम कर रहा है। और ये सारा जो कंजम्पशन हो रहा है वाटर का, ये सब ग्राउंड वाटर से हो रहा है जो है। तो हालत है, आप आश्चर्य करेंगे, 800 फुट पर भी पानी अवेलेबल नहीं है। इवन रिवर्स में जो है, जो लोगों ने बोरिंग कराई, वहाँ पानी नहीं आया है। तो बहुत ही पैनिक है। लातूर तो सिर्फ रेल लाइन पर डिपेंड है, रेल से जो सप्लाई हो रही है। लेकिन बीड में आप आश्चर्य करेंगे, अभी रेल लाइन नहीं है वहाँ। बीड जो है अभी रेल कनेक्टिविटी नहीं है वहाँ। तो वहाँ से लेकर के एक्चुअली जो लोग वहाँ बेगिंग कर रहे हैं, भीख मांग रहे हैं पानी के लिए, ये हालत है। बहुत ही, मैंने इतने सालों में बहुत सारे सूखे को कवर किया है। और लोगों से भी जहाँ अलग अलग बात हुई, कोई कह रहा है, जो ओल्ड आदमी है, बूढ़ा आदमी, वो कह रहा था 100 ईयर में ऐसा कभी नहीं देखा मैंने। कई पॉन्ड्स हैं जो कभी 100 ईयर में कभी सूखे नहीं थे, वो नहीं सूखे। तो एक्चुअली ये तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा। और दूसरा जो वहाँ के कमिश्नर, उनका ये मानना था कि क्लाइमेट चेंज का वर्स्ट इफेक्ट कहीं अगर दिख रहा है तो यहाँ दिख रहा है। तो मुझे लग रहा है कि ये जो है अभी प्रीमेच्योर होगा कि इसके कारण क्या है। अकेले एक कारण नहीं हो सकता, लेकिन इस पर ये बहुत ज़्यादा जो है, जो वैज्ञानिकों को चकराने वाला ये सूखा है, इसलिए इस पर बहुत गहन स्टडी करने की। और जो दूसरा इलाका है बुंदेलखंड का, यूपी और मध्य प्रदेश का, इनमें भी यही हालत है। और जहाँ कभी जो बड़े बड़े तालाब, अगर आप बुंदेलखंड में देखेंगे तो मराठवाड़ा से अलग हटके जो चंदेल, जो रॉयल फैमिलीज थी चंदेलों की, इसके बाद बुंदेलास, इन सब लोगों ने अलग अलग इलाकों में इतने बड़े बड़े तालाब बनाए हैं कि वो लाइफलाइन बने रहे अभी तक। आप दतिया में चले जाएं तो आपको वहाँ पॉन्ड 4 पॉन्ड 5 पॉन्ड इंटरकनेक्टेड हैं। लेकिन धीरे धीरे अर्बन पॉपुलेशन बढ़ी है, पॉन्ड्स को इंक्रोच किया लोगों ने, उनका जो कैचमेंट एरिया है उस पर उसको ग्रैब कर लिया है। तो आज हालत है कि जहाँ कभी भी वाटर क्राइसिस नहीं रहती थी बुंदेलखंड में, वहाँ वाटर क्राइसिस है। मैंने 2-3 नदियों में देखा है जहाँ लोगों ने 5-5 बार बोर कराए हैं। मैं एक इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ बताऊँगा कि एक नौगांव एक जगह है, जो पहले विंध्य जो स्टेट बनी 1947 में, तो उसकी वो राजधानी थी, कैपिटल था, बट उसका वाटर सोर्स सिर्फ एक धसान नदी है। वहाँ नगर पालिका ने 5 बार बोरिंग कराई अलग अलग, कहीं नदी में पानी नहीं निकला।
Absolutely.
तो
You know what you're saying about Bundelkhand,
जी,
13 droughts that it has seen in 15 years.
Yes.
That in itself, you know, if you think about it, considering the kind of situation that has developed, you're wondering what has been happening for all this time. Archana, I can see you nodding vehemently, you know, when Arvindji is talking, because you yourself have seen the Latur crisis. You went there recently. We are, of course, talking about how Latur has got a lot of the media attention.
Yeah.
But you can't deny the fact that people are still suffering so much there. One, of course, a big problem is that water mafia that we're seeing. And that has, of course, resulted in a lot of socio-economic changes as well.
Yeah. See, one of the things, Tracy, that really stumped me when I was traveling around that area was that this seems to be a drought for the have-nots. This is not a drought for the haves. So people in Latur city who can afford water, they have been buying tanker waters. Yes, it has become expensive. Tankers that were available for 250 rupees are now available for 900 rupees. So that kind of jump has been there. But water is available to those who can pay.
Yes.
It is those who cannot. And we have to remember that most of this country depends on agriculture. Most of these people do not, most of us people do not make, you know, more than 100, 150 rupees a day. So for that family, if you have to pay 50 rupees a day for water,
Yes.
you know, that is the situation right now, that if you want water, you're going to have to pay for it, and that is available. But there is no agricultural income because of this back-to-back droughts. There's been nothing growing in land, on the land. There has been absolutely no work for the farm laborer, which is a big part of the population. So they're migrating out of those places. They don't have a choice. They are going and crowding cities looking for, you know, labor work,
Yes.
manual labor. And you're finding that, but those who have the means, who have the money, they seem to be able to make themselves fairly comfortable by buying. So where is that water coming from? Where are those tankers coming from? Then why isn't there distribution of that?
Yes.
So there is, to a great extent, also a lot of governance failure, a lot of bad planning in distribution of water, which has made this drought much worse for those who really are at the bottom of the, you know,
Yes.
pyramid.
Yogendra Yadavji, if I could come to you, you know, Archana here pointing out the fact that this is really a drought for the have-nots. But I have also spoken to several people that, you know, a lot of different types of people, in fact, who have agreed that this is perhaps one drought or the water crisis that we're seeing across the country that is also affecting different classes. You know, we may be able to pay for that water, but we are sensing that water scarcity in our own homes as well. Maybe the level of awareness should be much higher, but we do sense that in our households. And this is a water crisis which, you know, in the past few years, we never thought of as well.
Archana ji is absolutely right. Drought, unlike all other natural calamities, is something which remains invisible. And it remains invisible. One of the reasons is that it actually doesn't hit all the classes equally. It affects the poor first, and the rich actually don't even get to know about it. You are right to say that this time it's beginning to affect even the well-to-do. And that, Tracy, is the reason why you and I got to know about the drought. Drought is nothing new.
Yes.
It actually started 6 months ago. 30th of September was the last day of the monsoon. 1st of October, we knew that the country has 14% deficit rain, that 39% area of the country is under drought conditions. But no one knew about it. On 2nd October to the 15th of October, we from Swaraj Abhiyan undertook a yatra in the drought affected areas. No one cared, no one listened to this. The government did not. I'm surprised and stunned that the Central Water Commission and everyone else is acting now. But may I ask, pray, why now? Did they not know in October? As a matter of fact, did they not know in April last year? April last year is when the first forecast of the Indian Meteorological Department came. This country has something called a manual for drought management, which lays down clearly that if there is a forecast of a bad monsoon, what are the steps to be undertaken? Then if that forecast turns out to be partially true, what do you need to do? Why did we not do all these things? In Hindi, there is a wonderful sad saying जब प्यास लगे तो कुआं खोदना शुरू करते हैं. This is what we are doing. We are trying to dig a well after we are thirsty.
Yes.
How can it possibly do something? This is such a gross failure of governance in this country. So much so, Tracy, that the figure of 33 crores that you gave, 330 million people who are affected by drought,
Yes.
even that is a wrong figure. The government submitted that figure to the Supreme Court.
That's right.
We
yes.
examined it. And going by government's own notification, the figure is actually 43 crores, 430 million. And if you actually look at the areas that should have been declared drought as per the forecast of the Mahalanobis Center of Government of India, then the figure is 54 crores. So we don't even get the elementary number right, let alone the entire preparation that should have been done. So this is shocking.
Absolutely. If I could bring you in, Professor, at this point of time, you know, we're talking about, like he's pointing out, bad governance definitely playing a big role. Successive governments have actually ignored this problem. You know, and the water has been pushed into cities, you know, because of the large consumption demand that we're seeing in various cities. The country is, of course, growing to heights, that we do know. But then, you know, ignoring the poor, ignoring the agricultural sector, that is something, you know, that is, of course, something that is also a big concern. Is it just agricultural decisions, you know, that are adding to this problem? Is it just that, or is there something more that's adding to the problem? Governance, bad governance, and, you know, bad decisions as far as agriculture sector is concerned.
Tracy, let me first begin by congratulating both these journalists on my right and my left and Rajya Sabha TV for focusing on this issue. But because look at the dominant discourses in the press today and in the media and in the parliament, you know, where are they and where is the drought in the middle of all that? And of course, also Dr. Yogendra Yadav, because had it not been for the their case putting it up in the Supreme Court, a lot of the things on which we see some movement today,
yes,
in fact, would not have happened.
In fact, awareness within the media as well.
The
yes.
admission, you know, that at least the media is now covering the issue. The Supreme Court has issued directives. The government has done a few things, released some funds for MNRG and so on. And it's unbelievable that, you know, despite centuries of you know, having a kind of a routine to deal with droughts, you actually need a plea in the Supreme Court and directives from the Supreme Court to galvanize some little bit of action on such a major issue. But as far as let me just say that, you know, when we confront something like the drought strikes us as being a natural calamity, but it's obviously a calamity which is exacerbated by policies, or by the lack of policies, lack of appropriate policies. And what the kind of situation we are facing in this country is that we have an overlay of three situations. One, a systemic situation in which agricultural producers, there's a systemic crisis facing agricultural producers over a number of years. You know, 1.6 million farmers committed suicide between 1996 and 2006. And then in the better years, because after 2006 till about 2012, the prices were still quite high.
Yes.
Between 2006 2016, still 1.47 million farmers went on to commit suicide all over again. So you have a systemic underlying crisis.
Yes.
Then you have the global downturn. So in the global downturn, prices are low.
Yes.
Of course, it's right that the crisis gradually has made itself felt to all classes of rural people. But in urban areas, because of the global downturn in prices, it's only a few prices that have gone up.
Yeah.
So this is basically the burden on the rural producer in these areas all the more now, because on the one hand their production has crashed, but on the other hand prices have also crashed because of the global crisis. Urban consumers are still not feeling the effect of the drought.
Yes.
And that is why, again, another reason why you don't see a very strong debate on this. And then of course you have this natural calamity. And look at the responses to the natural calamity, because after all, you can have a whole set of responses, including social protection measures. Manrega is there, the National Food Security Act.
Yes.
And then, of course, the long-term measures, these are the short-term measures, historically built into the system. You know, I mean, even the Britishers had a routine to deal with drought and famine relief. And we have not been able to put it into place, and it again needed the Supreme Court and Dr. Yogendra Yadav's case in the Supreme Court to nudge the government to release funds for Manrega. And just today, in fact, even as of today, although some funds have been released, papers have reported the Rajasthan government, in Rajasthan, the Manrega area still amount to 600 crores. So forget about new wages being paid out. People who worked in Manrega over the last 6 to 8 months still have not been paid their wages.
Absolutely. And in Bundelkhand, in fact, there are people who are still waiting for
Yes.
the 2014-15 compensation. They're still waiting for that. In fact, a lot of them migrated because they couldn't wait for it any longer.
It's a failure of governance at all levels, not just the center, but also the states. But let me certainly underscore the fact that the government came on the slogan, or at least to undo what it felt was policy paralysis of the last government.
Yes.
And this is what we are seeing now.
Archana, we were talking about migration and the crisis that it's going to be posing, especially in the coming years. Now with, even though there is a prediction that perhaps this time the monsoon is going to be good, but still the kind of a backlog that we're seeing, the kind of famine-stricken Bundelkhand we are seeing, the kind of a problem we're seeing Marathwada, Telangana as well, the kind of migration we're seeing from these particular areas, what kind of a crisis can this unfold, in times to come?
One of the things that when we were reporting for this story, we did is we traveled to Thane, which is on the outskirts. That's Bombay basically, and where Shiv Sena, who is a partner in the ruling coalition, has actually put up this migration camp for migrants. It's basically a tent. It's a tent where people who are coming in from Marathwada, these laborers who are coming here in search of job, they're being housed, and a lot of media is going and covering that. But the truth is that this is what the future looks like if our policies, like he says, are going to be this haphazard and this unplanned, because we did not plan this. Like he said, Manrega. Okay, one of the things that we found when we were in Bid was that not only in a state like Maharashtra, we had farmers telling us that their Manrega work had not started. There was no work for them to earn a livelihood, and where there was, that money had gone away and they had no idea who'd taken it.
Okay.
So that kind of thing is happening. And that kind of mismanagement is what is driving these people to look for work. Obviously, you want water, yes, but you want livelihood, you want some kind of a security for your children.
Absolutely.
So there are people there in that camp where we went, where children have not, they've not given their final exams, they've just been pulled out of school, and these people have just headed out to wherever they find a little bit of work, like 100 rupees a day is all they're looking for. And that is something we're not able to provide at the moment. So this is the future if we're going to look, mismanage our, our policies this way, where there is absolutely no backup, no kind of support for those who really need it. And in spite of Manrega and being around for so many years, if this is the condition, then the future looks pretty bad, because obviously where are they going to go? They're going to go to the cities. So there's more.
Absolutely. And Arvind ji, apart from governance wale jo issues hai, that of course is one big crisis, big issue that definitely needs to be tackled. But apart from that, different types of crops, is it time finally to look at it in that way as well? There are certain crops which consume way too much water. It is high time to stop that. Or is it still too early? Or is it are we still trying to look at the benefits or the pros and cons of certain crops? One thing we do know, sugarcane and rice also. There are areas in Assam, there are areas, even in Bihar, rice growing areas. And we do know that these are areas that have also suffered from water scarcity. They still do. Is this also a policy that needs to be looked at?
जी बिल्कुल. देखिए, एक तो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट ये है कि जो ग्राउंड वाटर है उसके बारे में अभी जो पॉलिसी बनी है, ये मेरी लैंड है अगर ये तो उसका ग्राउंड वाटर का मैं हकदार हूँ. लेकिन अगर मैंने बहुत ही डीप बोर करके अगर उसकी ग्राउंड वाटर, तो मैंने अपने पड़ोस के भी लोगों का तो पानी खींच लिया ना अपने पास.
Yes.
अभी क्या है, जैसे आपने कहा कि जो गरीब और अमीर के बीच का जो फ़र्क है वो एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर में भी है. जो बड़े लैंडलॉर्ड्स हैं वो पानी को जितना गहराई से खींच सकते हैं खींचना जानते हैं, और जो स्मॉल फार्मर्स हैं जो 15% बाकी लोग हैं, बाकी 85% जो है वो स्मॉल और जो मार्जिनल हैं, ये सारे फार्मर्स हैं कुल मिला के. तो अगर आप इन इलाकों में देखेंगे, चाहे वो बुंदेलखंड हो या मराठवाड़ा हो, उसमें जो छोटे जो लोग हैं वो पलायन कर गए हैं अपना छोड़ के गांव में, क्योंकि एग्रीकल्चर की कोई भी एक्टिविटी उसको पानी चाहिए. अभी क्या हालत है कि जो आप शुगर केन की बात करिए, आप कॉटन की बात करिए,
Yes.
आप सोयाबीन की बात करिए, ये जो भी पॉपुलर क्राफ्ट्स हैं, चाहे वो मराठवाड़ा की हों, विदर्भ की हों या कुछ और इलाकों की जहाँ पानी की कमी है, ये वहाँ की बहुत ही पॉपुलर क्रॉप है। वहाँ की ट्रेडिशनल क्रॉप जो थी वो थे मोटे अनाज, वो जो है वो गायब हो गए, आज आपको नज़र नहीं आएंगे। वहाँ जो है बाजरा था, ज्वार था, पुराना जो हाइब्रिड कॉटन की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, बीटी कॉटन की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, जो हमारा ट्रेडिशनल कॉटन था, ये किसी भी सॉइल में हो जाते थे, कोई भी क्लाइमेट चेंज को ये बर्दाश्त कर लेते थे। अब क्या है कि अगर आप किसी भी फार्मर से बात करेंगे तो पता कर लगेगा कि उसने जो कुछ भी पैसे लगाए खेती में वो घाटे में चला गया, सारी फसलें बर्बाद हो गई हैं। और जो प्रोडक्शन हुआ भी है वो मार्केट में बेचने लायक नहीं है। वो मैंने बहुत सारी जगहों पर किया जहाँ तुर दाल वगैरह जो उन लोगों ने बनाई है, उसकी क्वालिटी इतनी पुअर है, उसकी कोई बाज़ार में हो नहीं सकता। तो मुझे लगता है कि देखिए, किसान के साथ तो ये है कि वो जो अगल बगल नकल करेगा, जो देखेगा कि अगर पड़ोसी शुगर केन लगा रहा है, अगर एक शुगर केन की मिल उसके पास अवेलेबल है, तो शुगर केन ग्रो करेगा। गवर्नमेंट ने कभी भी कोई इंटरवेंशन नहीं किया, कोई ऐसी स्कीम नहीं चलाई, कोई अवेयरनेस का कोई इस तरह का कैंपेन नहीं किया उन्होंने। अब जबकि ये सारा क्राइसिस है, मैंने खुद देखा है, बहुत सारे लोग जो है एडवांस तैयारियां कर रहे हैं, वो वाटर जो है कंजर्वेशन के लिए कोशिशें कर रहे हैं, तमाम विलेजर्स मिल करके चेक डैम बना रहे हैं, कोशिशें तो कर रहे हैं। वो अगर पानी बरसता है तो आने वाला सूखा कम हो, उनको क्राइसिस, तो गवर्नमेंट को चाहिए। गवर्नमेंट ने अभी, महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट ने एक योजना बनाई है, वो जो योजना है, लेकिन दिक्कत ये है, जैसे योगेंद्र जी ने कहा कि प्यास लगने पर कुआं खोदना, अभी तो पानी की दिक्कत है। अब मैं आपको बताऊं, एक इलाके में मुझे एक लेडी मिली जिसने कहा कि वो पूरा दिन, वो लेबर का काम करती थी, पूरा दिन वो पानी में लगा रही है, और पूरे दिन की मेहनत के बाद वो 20 लीटर पानी ले आ रही है। तो उसने मुझे कहा कि सर, इससे तो अच्छा था कि मैं 300 रुपये जो मुझे मिलते थे मजदूरी में, उससे बिस्लेरी खरीद लेते। आप देखिए, एक औरत पूरा दिन लगा के, उसके बच्चे स्कूल छोड़ करके। तो ये जो चीज़ है ना, जो एग्रीकल्चर की जो भी एक्टिविटीज़ हैं ठप हैं, और जो मुआवजे मिल रहे हैं ना, जैसे अभी आपने कहा बुंदेलखंड में, मुझे 2 उदाहरण मिले हैं कि पिछले साल का मुआवजा इन लोगों ने दिसंबर में दिया 750 रुपये, और वो भी जब तक किसान को मिला है तब तक उसकी वो जो है वो उसका डेट निकल चुकी थी। उसने बैंक में डाला, बैंक से चेक वापस आ गए हैं, और इसके बाद वो तहसीलदार के चक्कर लगा रहा है। 750 रुपये। आप इमेजिन करिए, और किसको मुआवजा दिया जा रहा। अगर मैं एग्रीकल्चर लेबर हूँ, मेरे पास कोई लैंड नहीं, तो मुझे कुछ नहीं मिलेगा, ना मैं फूड सिक्योरिटी के दायरे में आ रहा हूँ। तो कुल मिलाकर के सिर्फ इसी की बात नहीं, जैसे योगेंद्र जी ने कहा, ये जो सरकारें हैं ये असंवेदनशील हैं, और इनको लोगों की मदद करना नहीं आता। जिन जो लैंडलेस है, सबसे पहले उनकी मदद करनी चाहिए। तो आप मदद किसकी कर रहे हैं? जिनके पास एग्रीकल्चर लैंड है। पहले ही जो ये ड्रॉट प्रोन एरियाज हैं, जो उनको पंजाब की तरह सब्सिडी नहीं मिलती, उनको वाटर पर सब्सिडी नहीं मिलती है, पानी है नहीं उनके पास, सब्सिडी पानी वालों को मिल रही है, जो गैर पानी वाले जो इलाके हैं। तो मुझे लग रहा है कि इसके बारे में एक कमीशन बना करके गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को, स्टेट्स को भी, जहाँ ड्रॉट प्रोन एरिया है जो, वहाँ बहुत ही मजबूत स्ट्रेटजी बनाने की ज़रूरत है। पानी का जो डीप बोर हो रहे हैं, जिस तरह से पानी का ग्राउंड वाटर को दोहा जा रहा है, उसको रोकने की ज़रूरत है। तो मुझे लग रहा है कि पॉलिसी है ही नहीं अभी। और जो अमीर आदमी है, चाहे जितना पानी खींच ले, जो गरीब आदमी है उसके लिए आपने बंदिशें बना के रखी हुई हैं, सारे कानून उनके लिए हैं। तो मुझे लग रहा है कि अब समय आ गया जब हमने ऐसे खतरनाक जो हम सूखा देख रहे हैं, जो कभी नहीं देखा गया है।
हाँ जी।
तो मुझे लगता है कि अब करने की जरूरत है।
It's beyond high time now. Yogendra ji, you agree with that? You know, as being suggested here by Arvind ji, a commission really has to be formed to look into what more can be done. Look into not just more can be done, to actually get to things getting done. And are you hopeful really of this? The teams that are going to be.
मैं एक चीज और बताना चाहूँगा
हाँ जी।
कि जो कैटल्स हैं,
हाँ।
वो लावारिस छोड़े हुए हैं। आपको
That is of course
बताऊँ, बुंदेलखंड में अन्ना प्रथा है। योगेंद्र जी तो वहाँ गए भी थे।
हाँ जी।
अन्ना प्रथा में लोगों ने जानवर छोड़ दिए हैं अपने, क्योंकि एक जानवर को 40 लीटर चाय पानी चाहिए। बड़ा जो जानवर है, पानी है ही नहीं। कहीं कैटल कैंप नहीं लगाए गए हैं, उनके फॉर्डर का कोई अरेंजमेंट नहीं है। तो सबसे बुरी हालत में है, मैं कहना चाहूँगा।
Absolutely. Yogendra ji, you would like to add in, Yogendra ji?
Yeah, I agree with this overall spirit of what we are saying, but let's get the priorities right. Short term, first of all, ban on excessive use of water, obscene use of water for industries, for all kinds of diversions, golf courses, everything should be banned for the next few weeks. for the next 6 or 8 weeks, all the Manrega funds should be really opened liberally, and Manrega funds should be used all over the country to strengthen the water resources, to clean the ponds, canals, and it should be a national emergency mission for the next 8 weeks. And yes, we desperately need kettle camps all over the country outside Maharashtra, because Maharashtra has some. That's short term. In the medium term, we need to rework the entire system of crop loss assessment and crop loss damage, which has become a complete joke, as Arvindji has pointed out. In the long run, we need these commissions. We need an entire way of thinking about water conservation. We need a national mission for long-term conservation of water resources, and we need crop diversification. But all these are long-term measures. At the moment, we are staring at a national emergency. This drought is turning into famine in some parts of the country, and has certainly become a famine for the cattle. So we need an emergency response, and it is truly shocking to see that places where one expects this response to come, Lok Sabha has not yet spent 1 hour discussing drought in this particular session. Last time they had an incomplete discussion on that. And the Supreme Court has spent more time discussing drought than the Parliament and all the assemblies put together. Isn't that shocking? So it is a national emergency that needs to be addressed immediately.
Absolutely. You couldn't have closed this debate better, Yogendra ji. Thank you so much for joining us, and to you guys as well joining me in studio. Thank you so much. This is, of course, like we say, a crisis we are staring at. It's affecting us in our households as well. Perhaps not as badly as we are seeing, of course, in the poor regions. But nonetheless, it's something we need to be aware about. And it hurts me even more. In fact, it makes my blood boil when politicians say, you know, this is what God has planned. What can we do about it? And that's the attitude that perhaps needs to change first of all. Thank you so much for joining us. That's it on The Big Picture. Thank you.